All right, so in this video, we're going to be looking at finding the area of a trapezoid. Now, there's multiple ways of looking at this formula. We'll kind of look at this main one here, but there's a variation of it that might come in handy. We'll look at that one as well. So for volume of a trapezoid, you're doing 1/2 times the height times the sum of the bases. Okay, so we got 1/2 times the height, and then we're going to add up the bases and multiply those together. Now, what are the bases? Well, the bases are kind of the top and the bottom. It's the parallel sides. Remember, a trapezoid, that's going to have two parallel sides. So we got one there and we got one there. There's base 1, there's base 2. They are interchangeable. It doesn't matter which one you pick for 1, which one you pick for 2. Okay, now in this case here, it's just plug and chug, right? We're just going to fill in the formula with what we know. So we're trying to find the area of the this top trapezoid. So area equals 1/2 times the height. Well, the height is from the bottom to the top, and that's going to be right here, 4 centimeters. Okay, so the h gets replaced with a 4, and there we go. And then we're going to replace the b1 and the b2 with the bases, and those are the parallel sides. So that's going to be a 6 and a 7. So 6 plus 7 goes there. Now again, with any of these formulas, if there is mental arithmetic you can do those. So as long as you read this as add the two bases together, you could just write in a 13. Because the next step here is we're going to do order of operations, PEMDAS, parentheses first. That's going to be the 6 plus the 7. Okay, so if we were going to rewrite this step by step, that would be area equals 1/2 times 4 times 6 plus 7 is 13. Now again, if you understood the formula, you could have just replaced the 6 plus 7 with a 13 instead of writing it there. Okay, instead of this 6 plus 7 there, you could have just written the 13 there instead. So now we all have multiplication, so we're going from left to right. So we're doing area equals, and then 1/2 times 4, that makes it 2, and then times the 13 there. So last up is we're doing the multiplication step. 2 times 13, this one's not too tricky. Break it up into small chunks. We can go 2 times 1, that makes 2, and then 2 times 3, that makes 6. So mathematically, it's 2 times 10 and 2 times 3. Either way, area equals, that's going to be 26 square centimeters. So remember, with area, you're trying to figure out how many little squares fit inside your shape, right? How many squares? So that's why we call them square centimeters, because it's actually figuring out how much area inside the shape in squares. So 1 centimeter squares. Okay, now in math, for this one here, this is one of the times to where what we write is going to be a little bit different than the way that we say it, because we're going to say square centimeters, but we write it centimeters squared. Okay, one of those things there. The other way of looking at this is this 1/2. Anytime you multiply a half, it's the same thing as dividing by 2. So you could think of this formula, instead of being the 1/2 there, is it could be a divide by 2. So here we go. This is what this one would look like. Kind of an alternative way of thinking about it. Area equals the height times the sum of the bases. So we got height and then b1 plus b2 over 2. Remember, taking a half of something is the same thing as dividing by 2. Now on this next one down here, this alternative form might actually come in handy. I'm not going to write it that way, but if we think of it that way, there's kind of a hack there. Okay, so if you want to, I highly recommend it. Try out either formula on this bottom one down here. See if you can get the same answer. Pause the video, then come on back and see how you did. So here we go, looking at the bottom trapezoid. We'll work that one there, and we're just replacing the h, the b1, and the b2 with the numbers that go with them. Okay, so we have area equals 1/2 times the height. Again, from the bottom to the top, that's your height. So that's going to be a 5. So we got times 5 times the sum of the bases. Add up the bases. That's a 7 and a 9. You could have just written a 16 there. That's totally fine, because when we do order of operations, PEMDAS, BOBMAS, whatever your acronym is for order of operations, you're doing the 7 plus 9 first. So area equals 1/2 times 5 times 16. Okay, so now check it out. This 1/2 here, remember that could be a divide by 2. And with multiplication, you can choose what order you multiply things. We have 2 multiplications to do. We're multiplying 3 numbers together. We can choose which order to do it in. So for this one here, actually choosing to do the 1/2 times 16 instead of the 1/2 times 5 first, using the commutative property and associative property, would be more helpful. So in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and do the 1/2 of 16 first. So area equals 1/2 of 16 makes 8, and then times 5. And that's going to make 40, right? Because we got 8 times 5. Whoop, I don't need to rewrite 8 times 5. We're just going to switch 8 times 5 with the number 40. Here we go, 40. And what things are these? They're squares that are 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So square centimeters. And we write that as centimeter squared, but we say squared centimeters. So this step here, where we did the 1/2 of 16 first, if you would use the alternative form where it's over 2, then you would have been able to see, oh, okay, I can divide 2 to the 5, or I can divide 2 to the 16. You can kind of choose. So the way we write it, the way we think about it, this is still a 1/2. It just means a divide by 2. So this is formula for area of a trapezoid. It's one of the trickier ones to memorize. 1/2 times the height times the sum of the bases. Add the bases up, okay? And when we're finding this, we're actually, the 1/2 actually goes with the sum of the bases, because these two guys right here, we're actually finding their average. Remember, the mean, the average of a number, or the average of some numbers, is where you add them up and then divide by how many there are, where in this case, there's 2 bases. We add them up and then divide by 2. Now, what we're doing with that is we're finding the middle of the bases. So we're actually finding this length right here. Why? Because we're going to cut this guy up. We're going to cut off this triangle and we're going to put it right up there. And then we're going to take this triangle and do the same thing. And that guy's going to go up there. So now what we have is we have a rectangle like that. And remember, because rectangles, base times height, the base of that rectangle is between the 6 and the 7. On the bottom one, it's between the 7 and the 9. It's their average. Add them up, divide by how many there are. So that's how we came up with this formula here. We didn't write it in the same order that we kind of figured it out on. Anyhow, if you like this type of video, if you like what you saw, if you learned something, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, like this video. If you didn't like this video, then go ahead and hit the thumbs down button twice, just to make sure.